In the present-day USA, the town of Meadowbrook prided itself on its thriving high school basketball program. For decades, Meadowbrook High had been a beacon of athletic excellence, with the varsity basketball team, the Meadowbrook Hawks, consistently ranked among the state's top competitors. The school gym was adorned with championship banners, and the community rallied behind the team every Friday night. Yet, beneath the shiny veneer of trophies and banners lay a community sharply divided by racial and socio-economic lines. When budget cuts forced the closure of neighboring Northview High, its predominantly black student body was merged with the majority white Meadowbrook High. The decision made by the school board to save resources was met with a mix of frustration and anxiety. Town hall meetings turned into shouting matches. "This merger is going to ruin our school," one parent fumed. "We don't have enough resources as it is," another chimed in. "Our kids shouldn't have to change just because their school couldn't stay open." Meanwhile, students grumbled in hallways, uneasy about the sudden influx of new faces. In the cafeteria, long tables naturally segregated along racial and social lines. "Did you see the new kids?" one Meadowbrook student whispered to a friend. "They think they're going to take over." The response came with an eye roll. "Well, they're not taking my spot on the basketball team." The basketball team, once a source of pride and unity, quickly became a battleground of unspoken prejudice and cultural clashes. Practices were tense, and the air was thick with mistrust. The Hawks head coach, Carter Lawson, was a no-nonsense figure with a reputation for winning. A white man in his early 50s, Coach Lawson had been with the Hawks for over 2 decades and ran his team with military precision. He stood tall on the sidelines, his booming voice cutting through the noise of squeaking sneakers and bouncing basketballs. "Hustle. Move. That's not defense. It's a joke," he barked, arms crossed tightly across his chest. Coach Lawson had seen his share of challenges, but this was different. With the influx of new players from Northview, he now faced the challenge of integrating 2 groups of athletes who didn't trust or understand each other. "This isn't just about basketball," he muttered to his assistant, Coach Miller, after practice one day. "It's like trying to blend oil and water." Among the new players was Darius Carter, a talented point guard with lightning-fast reflexes and a knack for reading the game. On his first day at practice, Darius's sharp passes and smooth drives to the hoop turned heads, but his presence also turned up the tension. "Who does he think he is?" Ethan Bradley, Meadowbrook's captain, muttered under his breath as Darius nailed a perfect three-pointer. Ethan was a skilled shooter and the team's golden boy, known for his impeccable stats and his father's generous donations to the athletic program. To Ethan, Darius wasn't just competition. He was a threat to the team's cohesion and, more importantly, to Ethan's leadership. Tensions boiled over during a scrimmage. Darius's team was ahead, thanks in part to his quick playmaking and relentless defense. When he intercepted a pass intended for Ethan and drove it down the court for a layup, Ethan couldn't hold back. "That was a foul," Ethan shouted, his face red with frustration. Darius turned to him, his expression calm but defiant. "It's called defense. Maybe try it sometime." "All right, knock it off," Coach Lawson interrupted, stepping between them. His voice was firm, but the tension lingered. "We're a team, not a bunch of kids playing street ball. Bradley, Carter, get it together or get off my court." Darius walked back to his spot, muttering under his breath. Ethan shot him a glare, then turned away. On the sidelines, other players exchanged uneasy glances. "This isn't going to work," one player whispered to his teammate. After practice, Coach Lawson pulled Ethan aside. "You're the captain," he said, his tone serious. "It's your job to set the example. This team's success depends on you." "I know, Coach," Ethan replied, his jaw tight, "but he's trying to take over." "No, he's trying to play. And from what I've seen, he's good at it. Figure out how to work with him, not against him." Meanwhile, Darius was venting to his best friend and fellow Northview player, Jamal Reed. "They're acting like we don't belong here," Darius said, slamming his water bottle onto the bench. "Like we're not good enough." Jamal nodded. "Let them think that. We'll show them on the court. Just keep playing your game, man." Darius sighed, his frustration evident. I just want them to see I'm here to help, not take over. But it feels like no matter what I do, it's never going to be enough. Jamal clapped him on the shoulder. You've got this. We'll make them see. One game at a time. At their first practice, the division was palpable. The gym, usually a place of focused energy, buzzed with an undercurrent of tension. Darius's flashy, street ball-inspired play style clashed with the Hawks' disciplined textbook approach. He'd execute a behind-the-back pass, only for it to ricochet off a teammate's hands. Ethan Bradley, the captain, groaned audibly every time Darius deviated from the set plays. What was that? Ethan shouted after Darius attempted a no-look pass that ended up out of bounds. It's called creativity, Darius shot back, retrieving the ball. Maybe try it sometime. Creativity doesn't win games, Ethan snapped, his tone sharp. Discipline does. Nearby, Jamal Reed muttered to another Northview player. Discipline, my ass. They just don't know how to keep up. The tension boiled over during a scrimmage. When Darius drove to the hoop and was fouled hard by Ethan, the whistle from Coach Lawson barely cut through the heated exchange that followed. What's your problem, man? Darius demanded, stepping up to Ethan, his chest heaving. My problem is you thinking you're running this team, Ethan replied, his voice cold. You're not at Northview anymore. Play by our rules or get off the court. Before Darius could respond, Coach Lawson blew his whistle sharply. Enough, he bellowed, striding into the middle of the court. Both of you, hit the bleachers. Now. As the two players stormed off, the rest of the team exchanged uneasy glances. Practice limped on, but the mood remained sour. Passes went astray, arguments broke out, and drills devolved into shouting matches. Coach Lawson tried to restore order, but his usual authoritarian tactics only widened the gap between the two groups. Later that evening, Darius vented to his best friend and teammate Jamal in the locker room. The echoes of bouncing basketballs from the JV practice filled the space as they sat on the benches, peeling off their sneakers. They don't want us here, man, Darius muttered, his voice low but heated. They're just waiting for us to mess up so they can blame us. Jamal nodded, stretching his legs out. It's like they've already decided we're the problem. Doesn't matter what we do. I'm trying out there, Darius continued, frustration lacing his words. But every time I make a move, I've got Ethan breathing down my neck, like he's scared I'm going to take his spot. Jamal smirked, probably because you are. Despite himself, Darius chuckled, shaking his head. Man, I just want to play, but it feels like I'm carrying Northview on my back every time I step on that court. Across town, Ethan sat on his couch, venting to his girlfriend, Lily. She listened intently, her hand resting on his knee. They're ruining everything, Ethan said, his voice rising. We had a good thing going, and now Coach has to babysit a bunch of guys who don't even care about the team. Lily raised an eyebrow. That's a little harsh, don't you think? Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. It's not that I don't think they're good. Darius is talented, I'll give him that. But he's not a team player. He's out there trying to show off, not win games. Or maybe he just plays differently, Lily offered. Maybe you both need to meet in the middle. Ethan frowned, but didn't respond, her words lingering uncomfortably in his mind. Coach Lawson, meanwhile, realized he needed help bridging the divide. After practice one day, he called Tasha Wilson, a former WNBA player and Meadowbrook alumna. When she arrived at the gym, her presence commanded attention. Tasha, a black woman with a calm demeanor and a knack for connecting with young athletes, quickly assessed the situation. Coach, you've got two teams sharing one gym, Tasha said after observing a practice. They're not just playing against each other, they're living it. Coach Lawson sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. I've tried everything. Yelling doesn't work. Splitting them up doesn't work. I'm out of ideas. Then let me try, Tasha replied confidently. During a particularly heated practice, Tasha stepped forward, blowing the whistle herself. Huddle up, she called, her voice cutting through the chaos. Reluctantly, the players gathered around her. This isn't just about basketball, she began, her tone firm but measured. It's about learning to trust each other. You're not going to win games if you can't even pass the ball to someone who doesn't look like you. Her words hung in the air, heavy with truth. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, while Darius crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. We're going to fix this, Tasha continued. And it starts this weekend. No basketball, no drills, just the team. You'll thank me later. That weekend, the players reluctantly arrived at a local sports camp for the retreat Tasha had arranged. The atmosphere was tense as they gathered in the main lodge. What's the point of this? Ethan muttered to one of his teammates. To learn how to be teammates, Tasha interjected, overhearing him. Now grab a seat. The weekend was filled with team-building exercises, from trust falls to group problem-solving challenges. Slowly, the players began to open up. During a campfire session, Tasha encouraged them to share their stories. Darius spoke first, his voice steady but low. Where I'm from, basketball isn't just a game. It's how we survive. It's how we stay out of trouble. Coming here, it's like none of that matters. Ethan hesitated, then added, My dad was a Hawks star. Everyone expects me to be just like him. Perfect. But sometimes, it feels like too much. The players listened, nodding as they began to see each other in a new light. Slowly, barriers began to crumble. The Hawks' first game of the season against a rival team, the Silver Lake Falcons, was nothing short of disastrous. From the opening tip-off, it was clear the team's disunity was going to cost them. Miscommunication led to missed passes and blown defensive assignments. Ethan shouted for the ball, but Darius, distrustful, chose to drive it himself, only to get blocked. Meanwhile, Jamal hesitated on defense, unsure whether to trust his new teammates to cover their assignments. The Falcons capitalized on every mistake, and by halftime, the Hawks trailed by 20 points. In the stands, the home crowd's frustration was evident. Parents exchanged worried glances, and a few students began booing when yet another turnover led to an easy fast-break layup for the Falcons. The final buzzer sounded with a score of 82-54, marking the Hawks' worst loss in years. As the team trudged back to the locker room, heads hung low, the disappointment in the air was palpable. Inside the locker room, the atmosphere was tense. Players avoided eye contact, the sound of sneakers squeaking on the tile floor, the only noise breaking the silence. Darius sat on the bench, towel draped over his head, his fists clenched in frustration. Ethan leaned against his locker, his jaw tight as he stared at the floor. Coach Lawson, usually quick to deliver a post-game critique, stood silently for a moment, his hands on his hips. Finally he spoke, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. That wasn't a game, he said, pacing slowly in front of the team. That was a group of individuals running around pretending to be a team. Maybe if some people passed the ball, Ethan muttered under his breath, but loud enough for Darius to hear. Darius shot up from his seat, his eyes blazing. Oh, so it's my fault now? Maybe, if you actually moved instead of standing there waiting for someone to hand you the ball, we wouldn't look like a joke out there. Enough! Coach Lawson's voice boomed, cutting through the brewing argument. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to him. He let the quiet linger before continuing, his tone softer but firm. I've been so focused on winning that I forgot what makes a team. It's not about stats or plays. It's about heart. And right now, this team has none. He paused, looking at each player. If you're going to play for the Hawks, you're going to play for each other. Not for yourselves, not for me, and not for the crowd. For each other. Because if you don't trust the guy next to you, it doesn't matter how good you are. You'll lose every time. The players exchanged glances, the weight of his words sinking in. Ethan shifted uncomfortably and Darius exhaled sharply, the fight draining from his posture. The next practice was different. Coach Lawson, with Tasha's guidance, implemented new drills focused on teamwork and communication. All right, pair up, Tasha instructed, clapping her hands. Darius, you're with Ethan. Let's see some two-man drills. Darius and Ethan exchanged wary looks but complied. The first few attempts were clumsy, with misreads and hesitations. Come on, guys, Tasha encouraged. Darius, use your vision to set Ethan up. Ethan, trust him to get you the ball. On the next play, Darius drove toward the basket, drawing the defense before kicking it out to Ethan, who sank a three-pointer. For the first time, Ethan turned to Darius and gave a small nod. "Nice pass," he muttered. "Don't mention it," Darius replied, a faint grin tugging at his lips. Over time, the drills became smoother. Ethan's precision shooting paired perfectly with Darius's ability to create opportunities. During scrimmages, they began calling out plays to each other, their voices cutting through the noise of the gym. Off the court, the players started bonding in unexpected ways. One evening, Ethan invited a few teammates over for pizza and video games. To everyone's surprise, Darius showed up. As the night went on, laughter filled the room as they competed in virtual basketball matches. "You're trash at this game," Darius teased as Ethan missed a dunk in the game. "Better than you on defense," Ethan shot back, smirking. The playful banter eased the lingering tension, and by the end of the night, it felt like the beginnings of a real team. The community center became another gathering spot, with players organizing pickup games that mixed everyone together. Jamal, who had been skeptical of Ethan, found himself partnering with him in a 2-on-2 match. "All right, Bradley, don't mess this up," Jamal joked as Ethan lined up a shot. "I've got this," Ethan replied, sinking the basket. They high-fived, the gesture feeling natural for the first time. By the time their next game arrived, the Hawks felt like a different team. In the locker room before tip-off, Ethan addressed the group. "Look, I know we didn't start off great, but tonight, we're not just playing as Hawks, we're playing as brothers. Let's show them what that looks like." Darius added, "And let's make sure we don't give the crowd anything to boo about this time." The team erupted in laughter, the tension replaced with camaraderie. They took to the court with renewed energy, every play a testament to their newfound unity. As the season progressed, the Hawks underwent a remarkable transformation. What once felt like a fractured group began to click into place. The diverse playing styles of the team, initially a source of conflict, became their greatest strength. Darius's flashy, street ball-inspired moves meshed seamlessly with Ethan's precision shooting and Meadowbrook's disciplined game plan. Jamal's physical defense and Marcus's reliable rebounding added balance to their lineup. The change didn't just happen on the court. Off the court, the players bonded over shared meals, late-night video game marathons, and long bus rides to away games. Inside jokes and playful banter replaced the tense silence that once filled their practices. Even the community, initially resistant to the merger, began to rally behind the Hawks as they racked up win after win. At a town hall meeting, one parent who had been a vocal critic of the integration stood up. "I'll admit it," she said, smiling sheepishly. "I was wrong. These boys are showing us what it means to come together." Her words were met with applause, and the town's support grew stronger with every game. The climax of their season came during the state championship against the undefeated Ridgefield Panthers. The gym was packed, the air electric with anticipation. Fans from Meadowbrook filled the stands, their cheers and school colors creating a sea of energy. On the court, the Hawks stood in a tight huddle, their faces a mix of determination and nerves. "This is it, boys," Coach Lawson said, his voice steady but intense. "You've worked hard to get here, and now it's time to finish the job. Play your game, trust each other, and no matter what happens, leave it all out there." Tasha added with a grin, "And don't forget to have some fun. You've earned it." Darius clapped his hands. "Let's do this," he said, his voice full of confidence. The game was a nail-biter from the start. Ridgefield, known for their aggressive full-court press, forced a few early turnovers, but Darius quickly adjusted. "Spread out," he called to his teammates, directing traffic with sharp hand signals. Ethan found his rhythm, sinking a pair of three-pointers to keep the score close. By halftime, the Hawks trailed by 5 points. In the locker room, the mood was tense but focused. "They're good, but they're not unbeatable," Tasha said, pacing in front of the team. "You've seen their moves. Now it's time to counter. Darius, keep pushing the tempo. Ethan, look for those open corners. Jamal, keep their big guy off the boards." Coach Lawson nodded. "This is your game to win. Go out there and take it." The second half was even more intense. The teams traded leads, each possession more crucial than the last. With 2 minutes remaining, Ridgefield's star player hit a contested jumper, putting them ahead by 3. The Meadowbrook crowd groaned, but the players didn't flinch. "We've got this," Darius said firmly during a timeout. "Ethan, get ready for the shot. Jamal, set the screen. I'll find you." The plan worked perfectly. Darius drove into the lane, drawing the defense, before dishing the ball out to Ethan, who drained the shot. The score was tied with 30 seconds left. On Ridgefield's next possession, Jamal came up with a massive block, sending the ball flying into Darius's hands. With the clock ticking down, Darius sprinted down the court, weaving past defenders. "Ethan," he shouted, firing a pinpoint pass to the corner. Ethan caught the ball, his movements automatic as he rose for the shot. The gym seemed to hold its breath as the ball arced through the air, the buzzer sounding just as it swished through the net. The crowd erupted. Fans stormed the court as the Hawks celebrated, their differences forgotten in the shared joy of triumph. Darius and Ethan found each other in the chaos, their faces alight with exhilaration. "We did it," Ethan said, pulling Darius into a hug. Darius grinned. "Told you to trust me." The victory was more than just a championship. It was a testament to the power of unity, a moment that symbolized everything they had overcome. As the team stood together, posing for pictures with the trophy, the Meadowbrook community cheered, united at last. The Hawks' championship victory became a turning point for Meadowbrook, not just in sports but across the entire school. The basketball team's success had shown that unity and collaboration could overcome even the deepest divides. Inspired by their journey, the school administration introduced new initiatives aimed at celebrating diversity and fostering inclusion. Clubs that focused on cultural awareness gained popularity, and student-led events brought together people from all backgrounds. One such initiative was the annual Unity Game, where students from different grades and cultures formed mixed teams to play basketball in a spirit of fun and camaraderie. It became a cherished tradition, a reminder of how far the school had come since the days of division and mistrust. Years later, the gymnasium at Meadowbrook High was filled with excited chatter as students, parents, and faculty gathered for a special event. At the center of the gym hung the Hawks championship banner, now slightly faded, but still a proud symbol of their historic win. On the sidelines stood Darius Carter and Ethan Bradley, now adults, wearing proud smiles as they prepared to address the crowd. Principal Ramirez, who had been newly appointed after the championship season, introduced them with enthusiasm. "Ladies and gentlemen, today we are honored to welcome back 2 Meadowbrook legends. Their journey showed us the power of teamwork and unity, and their impact continues to inspire us. Please give a warm welcome to Darius Carter and Ethan Bradley." The audience erupted in applause as Darius and Ethan stepped to the center of the court. Darius, now a youth basketball coach, adjusted the microphone and began. "Wow, it feels good to be back in this gym. It's been a while, but seeing that banner up there reminds me of everything we went through to get here." Ethan nodded, taking the mic. "Back then, it wasn't just about basketball. We had to learn to trust each other, to respect each other, and to see the value in what everyone brought to the team. It wasn't easy, and we didn't always get it right." He glanced at Darius with a smirk. "You remember our first practice?" The crowd chuckled as Darius laughed. "How could I forget? I'm pretty sure Ethan here called me every name in the book that day. But seriously, those moments taught us something bigger than basketball. They taught us that no matter how different we are, we're stronger together." Ethan added, "And that's not just something that applies on the court. It's a lesson we've carried with us into our lives. Darius is out there mentoring the next generation of players, and I've been working on initiatives to bring more equity to youth sports programs. What we built here at Meadowbrook didn't stop when we graduated. It grew." A student raised their hand from the bleachers. "What was the hardest part of coming together as a team?" they asked. Darius thought for a moment before replying. "The hardest part was getting out of our own way. We all came in with assumptions about each other, about who deserved what, about what made a good player or a good teammate. Breaking those walls down took time, and it wasn't always smooth, but it was worth it. Ethan chimed in, and the best part? Seeing how much stronger we became once we did. The trust we built didn't just make us better players, it made us better people. As the event concluded, the audience gave a standing ovation, the applause echoing through the gym. Students lined up to meet Darius and Ethan, eager to take pictures and ask questions. For the two former players, it was a humbling moment, a reminder of the enduring impact of their story. As they left the gym, Darius glanced back at the banner one last time. "You know, we've come a long way since those days," he said. Ethan nodded, "And so has this town. It's good to see the next generation carrying it forward." The two walked out into the crisp evening air, their footsteps echoing in unison. Their journey had started with a game, but had grown into something far greater, a legacy of unity, understanding, and change that would continue to inspire for years to come.